Okay, well, that explains why he is in the jungle in a plane.
Yeah.
And also, he doesn't really know the pilot that well.
Right.
'Cause it's not his pilot, and they haven't spent a lot of time together.
But they will, and they'll fall in love.
I mean, maybe, sure.
Is it John Cena and
Michael
Michael
Cera.
Cera again?
It's been a while since we brought them out. I mean, I can picture this, so...
The twist is that Cena, of course, is the tech CEO.
Yeah, and Sierra is
Yeah.
the bush pilot. Of course.
Right.
Absolutely.
The experienced rough and tumble bush pilot,
Michael Cera.
Michael Cera.
Hey there, story fans. Welcome to Almost Plausible, the podcast where we take ordinary objects and turn them into movies. This is a podcast about screenwriting and the writing process in general. And today's object can also be helpful when it comes to writing. We'll be creating a movie plot about a pencil. I'm Thomas J. Brown, and with me are my pair of number twos, Emily
Hey, guys.
and F. Paul Shepard.
Number 2 also means poop.
Mhm.
So which one are you?
Number 2,
Perfect.
I prefer to be called HB. Thank you.
HB.
Yes.
Oh, is this a type
Of pencil.
lead? Yeah.
Yeah, it's what they call number 2 pencils other places in the world.
Ah.
That's what they call it in Europe.
Well, speaking of Shep and Europe, Shep, you're up. Let's hear your pitch first.
Perfect.
Okay. A corrupt government is attempting to control the press. They have soldiers with guns. Reporters have just pencils. What are they supposed to do with those? Write the truth.
So was this a pitch, or are you just stating facts about how the world works currently?
Yes and yes. All right. My other pitch is a high schooler's test cheating scheme goes awry. And in a panic, they murder the assistant teacher with their own pencil.
Wow. A lot on the line.
Isn't this teaching Mrs. Tingle?
I don't know what that is.
Is it?
Oh, they're accused of cheating by
Ah,
their
that's what it is.
vindictive teacher.
And then they accidentally kill her.
Well, but then that story has already been done. I was trying to think of things like the least consequential, like your high school grades don't matter, really.
Right.
But killing someone matters a lot. So it's
Mhm.
like, this is the biggest overreaction to something that doesn't matter. But when you're a teenager, everything seems like it's important. That's it for me.
All right, Emily, let's hear what you have.
Melody is an artist who is known for her hyper-realistic pencil drawings. She has a decent following on social media, and she makes enough money to be a full-time artist. She is approached by a wealthy man to do a series of commissioned drawings. He won't give her specifics unless she accepts the job and signs an NDA.
Don't do it.
Yep.
He's offering her an obscene amount of money,
Okay, maybe do it a little.
too much to pass up. She accepts the job. She's invited to his beach house where she'll be working. Once she arrives, she learns that the drawings he wants are of various body parts in different stages of decomposition. He assures her all of the body parts were acquired in legal and respectable ways.
Oh, well, as long as he's assured her, then no problem.
Melody has her doubts, but feels like it's too late to turn back now. Soon she learns he's a broker of violent and grotesque art for depraved people. Some are just collectors of the macabre, and some are killers themselves who want their work immortalized.
In pencil,
Hyper-realistic pencil drawing.
take a photograph.
Hold on, though. Because a photograph, that's evidence. A drawing, that's just art. It could just be a thing she made up.
Take a photograph and run it through an art filter and throw away the original photograph.
Okay, but if these killers are sick enough to like keep the pieces and let them decompose in certain ways so that it could be captured and immortalized in an art form, maybe part of the thing isn't just the art that they're getting, but also they have one other victim in the artist by forcing her to witness this horror that they've created and thus giving them an extra thrill.
Gross.
Yes. Thomas?
All right, I have two. Daniel is a middle-aged man who lost his wife several years ago. His life has never been the same, and he wallows in his depression. He refuses to move on or let go of any of her belongings, keeping their home just as it was when she died. One day, he needs a pencil to jot down information given to him over the phone, and he hurriedly grabs one from her desk. He scribbles down the note on an envelope, but the next day the words on the envelope have changed. The new words are a puzzled reply in his late wife's handwriting. He realizes he can use the pencil to send her messages in the afterlife and that she will reply. He is excited to reconnect with his wife, but over time she helps him to move on with his life.
Well, I thought she was going to actually be a demon tricking him.
I mean, it could be a friendly demon that helps him move on with his life.
We can change it.
Okay, he's excited to reconnect with his wife, but he's not excited about proof of the afterlife? That seems like a really, really big deal.
Yeah, I guess that's something for us to work out.
I think it could be a really sweet story.
It's the lake house.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of that. Well, perhaps my second pitch then.
Okay.
Jack is a rugged pilot with years of experience. Simon is a young tech CEO. Jack is flying Simon over a jungle, for some reason, when their plane suddenly lurches and goes down. Jack's survival instincts kick in, and he determines that they're gonna have to leave the plane and find help on foot. Simon brings his laptop bag, which Jack scoffs at. Along the way, though, Simon is able to use the pencils in his bag to help them. In the wet jungle, they use pencil shavings as tinder to start a fire. Unfortunately, the fire attracts bad guys who are in the jungle doing something nefarious. Perhaps related to why Jack and Simon were flying over the jungle in the first place? So they're locked up, but Simon rips the eraser out of the pencil and bites the ferrule flat, creating a makeshift screwdriver, which he uses to help them escape. At another point, Simon uses the graphite in the pencil to short out something electrical, giving them an advantage. Jack tries to sketch out a tactical plan in the dirt, but it's just dirt, so it's really not clear what he's trying to draw. Simon offers him a pencil and paper, which makes the plan much easier to understand. Demonstrating his eventual acceptance of the pencils, Jack uses one to stab a guard in the neck, killing him. Suddenly, reinforcements show up to help, all thanks to the note that Simon left pinned to the flight instrument panel in the plane before they left.
And Simon's last name? MacGyver.
I was going to say this is very much like MacGyver, Romancing the Stone, and
Yes.
a little bit of Air America. Because Jack's a drug runner, obviously, right? That's why he's flying over the jungle.
Could be, yeah. He's just got to make a quick stop before he takes Simon to his eventual destination.
To Sao Paulo.
Right.
Because Simon got tickets to Carnival.
He's taking him to Fire Festival. It's a private flight. All right. Which pitch do we want to go with?
I would like to point out that my use of the pencil was to make art. True, it's grotesque and horrifying art, but still art. And both of you pitched stories in which the pencil is used to kill people.
I also pitched a story where the pencil is used to write the truth and stand up to power.
This is true.
My other pitch is a little bit like that.
The one with the dead wife?
Yeah.
Hey, he's learning the truth about the afterlife that you apparently refuse to accept.
Yeah, why doesn't he ask about the afterlife and what it's like? And if he does, what does she write? This is important. And if he doesn't, why doesn't he? It makes no sense that would not be the first thing you talk about. What is it like? Is there weather? Are there other people? Are there famous people?
Are there tacos?
If there aren't tacos.
I don't want to go there.
Yeah. Look, I'm trying to find a reason to live. And if there aren't tacos in the afterlife, then I got to stick around here as long as possible.
Right.
Yep. I say we can't do the dead wife one because I am going to get stuck on the afterlife. No matter what we come up with for what she says about the afterlife, it's going to be unpopular for someone. So that pitch is a trap.
I agree with that. I think it's a good point. So that one's out.
So the high schooler test cheating one sounds like whatever movie you said it was.
Teaching Mrs. Tingle.
Yeah.
I feel like the corrupt government one is too close to real life. And I'd like to escape that for a bit. So.
All right. So killer macabre art or MacGyver?
MacGyver. I don't need. Don't you think?
Well, let's do MacGyver. And it sounds like we have basically the whole story. So.
Well, I did try to come up with several ways he could use the pencil so that we didn't get like halfway through it and set up this whole world and be like, okay, so he can draw. And boy, we really should have thought of some other things before we went all the way into this. So.
I mean, you can use a pencil to make, you stick it on the ground and you track the shadow and you use that as a compass. And
oh, yeah. See, that's good. Can graphite be magnetized?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
How many pencils does he have?
3 or 4? I don't know.
He could be a pencil salesman and he's got a briefcase full of pencils. Okay, so is he an inventor or is he a tech CEO? You said tech CEO in your pitch.
Yeah, I imagine him as a tech CEO, and that's the reason he takes his laptop bag is because his laptop is in there, and like he needs that for his company. There are notes or something that he has on there, and that they're not backed up yet.
He's a bad tech CEO.
He's been traveling in a rickety plane over the jungle.
Oh, yeah, he hasn't been able to connect to the network.
Right.
Yeah, why is he over the jungle?
He's going to talk to investors, venture capitalists.
Yeah, are the investors drug dealers? Like, why is he going to the jungle?
He's meeting with Richard Branson.
Yeah, he's meeting with a venture capitalist who is vacationing in some jungle country because it's cool.
Right. And this is the only way he can get a meeting with that guy.
Oh, this is that guy's pilot. He's like, oh, I'll have one of my guys pick you up.
Yeah,
There
sure.
you go.
Because that guy's rich. So he can afford to have a guy with a plane go and pick up some potential investment opportunity.
Yeah, it's his bush pilot.
Yeah. Everyone's got a bush pilot when you're rich.
Falcon and a bush pilot. It's the dream.
Yep. Okay. Well, that explains why he is in the jungle in a plane.
Yeah.
And also, he doesn't really know the pilot that well.
Right.
'Cause it's not his pilot, and they haven't spent a lot of time together.
But they will, and they'll fall in love.
I mean, maybe, sure.
Is it John Cena and
Michael
Michael
Cera.
Cera again?
It's been a while since we've brought them out. I mean, I can picture this, so...
The twist is that Cena, of course, is the tech CEO.
Yeah, and Sarah's
Yeah.
the bush pilot. Of course.
Right.
Absolutely.
The experienced rough and tumble bush pilot,
Michael Cera.
Michael Cera.
Oh, man.
Can Michael Cera play against type? Is it even possible for him to do that?
Yeah, when he plays himself.
Yeah, that's true. What was the movie? The End of Days or This is the End?
This is
Oh,
the
yeah.
end. Well, then there's also a lot of video footage of him. Well, a lot of like weird skits like that where he's him, but he's an asshole.
I mean, that's basically half of his character in Youth in Revolt.
Right. It doesn't have to be them. We don't have to make it a romance. Not everything has to be about sex.
I mean, it could be them and not be a rom-com.
This
That's
is true.
also possible.
Could just be a buddy comedy with
Yes.
John Cena and Michael Cera. I think if we keep putting it out into the universe, eventually we're going to get that movie.
See, they don't have to fall in love or have sex, but it would be funny if there's a scene where they have to huddle up to keep
Oh,
warm.
yeah, to
and
cuddle. Yeah.
And John Cena wants to be the little spoon.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't continue with the role split. In my mind, it's rebelling. Got to be Michael Cera as the CEO, who
Okay.
seems incompetent, but is actually hyper competent.
Right.
And John Cena as the bush pilot, who seems competent, but is actually inexperienced.
It's not that he's incompetent. He's just pig-headed and inflexible.
He thinks he knows best because he's been out here before. He knows the region. Michael Cera's just some computer nerd.
Some city guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. What are the bad guys up to? Are they making drugs in the jungle?
That seems like a very common trope.
What else do you do in a jungle?
They're running a Bitcoin mining operation.
Powered by what?
Yeah, there's a
mill.
They got a water wheel.
There's
on
a
the
water
Amazon.
mill.
Okay. So they're found by people in the jungle who are not running drugs because that's been done many times. And they're not mining Bitcoin because that's a little unrealistic.
Yeah.
It's a cult. It's a cult
Okay.
that has moved to the jungle and built a compound. So why do they grab these people and bring them back to the compound? Are they thinking that these are government agents? Or are they thinking, hey, we need more diversity in our gene pool? You know, everybody is someone's half sibling. And so there are these two men that could breathe life into their compound. And so they bring them back and are like pressing them to mate with all the women.
Just what every cult needs, more men.
Well, let's say it's an all women cult. All the men have died off.
They need to make snoo snoo.
They need to make snoo, which I mentioned for one of the two is very compelling. And for the other, it's like, oh, we got to escape. It's like, what do you mean escape? This is it.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
Yeah, you want to go back to civilization to do what? To do your job, to make money, to impress women? We're there. We made it. We're done. We retire now.
So what is the downside of the cult?
Death by snoo snoo.
By Snoo Snoo.
So what if it's not that there aren't enough guys? What if it's that there are no guys? Because some like rebellious militia has come and taken all of the men and forcibly recruited them, or, you know, whatever, taken them to a labor camp, something like that. So it's just women. And they're like, well, what do we do now? And then these two guys show up and they're like, perfect. But they don't tell them about that part. And so then they find out, oh, these, you know, death squads are coming or whatever. So they got to get out of there.
Right.
So at first they're both into it. They're like, this is great. And the tech guy's like, maybe starting to come around to it a little bit. And then they find out about the death squads and they're like, we got to go. Oh, are they sirens? Are they entrapping men?
No, I like the idea of death squads coming and taking all the men and forcibly recruiting them or having them work,
right?
You know, forced labor or whatever. I mean, I don't like that idea, but as a story idea, I like that idea.
Yes.
And so the women know that like every once in a while, the death squads come back and someone spots them coming. And so they take the two guys and like, okay, you guys have to dress up like women. We got to put you incognito so that you can pass as a woman because the death squad is coming. But the death squad, while they're there, wants to fuck the women.
Well, yeah, because they got to help out the community.
Here's where you get your role reversal. You totally expect that Michael Cera is going to pass and John Cena is going to be discovered, but it's the other way around. Like John Cena totally passes for a woman and Michael Cera is called out. If we're doing, you know, sticking with them as our actors.
I'm still picturing them.
Yeah.
I'm realizing how old I am because I was like, oh, you know, it would be a funny plot line is like this gay panic thing. And I'm like, oh, it's not 1980.
Right.
Right.
I get stuck in that too, where it's like, oh, this was really funny in this movie from like 20, 30 years ago. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, that's not funny anymore.
Right. Because I was like, while the death soldiers are there, they pick out some women to sleep with. One of them is John Cena. That's the joke, that John Cena is seen as one of the most attractive women in the camp.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I was thinking it is when they encounter those soldiers later, John Cena again sees that soldier that picked him. And we don't know what happened, but they did go off into a room. And there's this like moment of longing, like, oh, I didn't know we'd see each other again.
A tender moment. Yeah.
Tender moment. Right. They're from different cultures. It could never work out. But the base of that is that the joke is that they picked John Cena. And the reason it's funny is because he's a man. It's like, is that funny anymore? Which is unfortunate because I can see the whole sequence playing out, because in the third encounter with those guys, that same soldier helps John Cena escape because of their love for each other.
Is it gay panic if we write it in a way that they are just attracted to each other and in love?
But see, in the first scene, it's gay panic. Like, oh no, they're going to pick me, but I'm a man.
I guess like the only way I could see it working is if like Michael Cera is all like, oh my God, how'd you deal with that? Blah, blah, blah. And John Cena's just like, don't worry about it, man. Like John Cena's always cool with it. John Cena was never worried about it. He just goes with the flow. He's just bi or pan or whatever. And Michael Cera's freaked out by it. And so John Cena's like, back off, you know, like you're awfully judgy.
Don't yuck my yum.
Right.
So what I'm hearing is John Cena plays a kind of suave, go with the flow character, and Michael Cera is like a socially awkward. I don't know if we can sell that.
I'm just not sure how to like, because
yeah, the only solution I have is just worse.
Well, it's just like you just have to be open to that immediately, because otherwise, you're right. Like the joke in the first scene is, but two boys, how?
Yeah.
And then it's like later you're like, oh no, it was always okay. And it was you were the problem, audience. But no, like we're trying to set it up to where everyone's uncomfortable with it.
Yeah. So never mind. Scratch that whole line.
Yep.
We missed the chance to do that by
40 years.
Yeah, 40 years too late.
Yeah.
They just hide the boys.
Unsuccessfully.
Yes. Instead of dressing them up like women, they just try to hide them. And it's Michael Cera who gives them away, not the big bulking John Cena. He can easily hide, but Michael Cera cannot for some reason. Like he's trying to stand behind a lamp or something.
Right. I mean, there is film trickery you could do where it seems like John Cena has fit into a tiny cabinet.
Yeah.
And Michael Cera couldn't find a place to hide. I mean, that would be funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would also be kind of be funny if there's a scene where like they've been shuffled into a cabin or a hut or whatever. And so Michael Cera is like panicking and he's like looking around and he can't find anywhere. And he's like, where should I hide? And he turns around and the hut is empty. It's just him in the hut. It's like, what the fuck? And then it turns out like in the like 5 seconds or whatever that he's been looking around, John Cena has fully camouflaged himself because he's got survivalist training. He's good at this sort of thing. So he blends in perfectly somehow.
Yes. Oh, okay. And the soldiers, when they search the cabin, find Michael Cera right away. And Michael Cera's like, oh, they found us.
Yeah.
Come on out. That we're both busted. So
yeah. And then all of a sudden, like, the lamp comes to life or the wallpaper moves or whatever. And he's like, what? Why would you say that?
He was the couch.
Right. Yeah. So they get taken to the labor camp.
Sure.
Why would they let him keep his laptop bag and pencils?
Ah, damn it. Thomas always with the logical questions.
They don't know about the pencils and they don't let him keep the laptop bag.
He kept the pencils in his prison wallet, and so he has them for later. No, they don't let him keep the laptop bag, obviously, but they take the laptop bag because it's got a laptop in it, and that's valuable.
Yes.
But so the soldiers have the laptop bag, which has all the pencils in it, except maybe one he has in his pocket. Because he used one earlier and then put it in his pocket instead of back in the bag.
Yeah, he used it to make the fire.
Yeah, he used it to make the fire or find directions or, one of the things that we came up with, whatever. The point is that he visibly put it in his pocket so we can see it. And then the soldiers take the laptop bag. So that's another thing. They have to escape from their cell or whatever, wherever they're being kept, and retrieve the laptop bag that has the rest of their supplies in it.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was going to say, why doesn't John Cena just try to convince him to leave it? But if it has supplies in it, then that makes sense.
It goes back to whatever his excuse was about not leaving it in the plane.
Right.
He's like, no, I have to have this with me. This is my life's work, or the only copy of my program is on here, or whatever. I don't know.
I mean, it's a laptop. It's designed to be carried.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's in a bag. Just sling it over your shoulder. You're good to go. And also you could put other stuff in the bag, bottles of water or whatever.
And John Cena's like, all right, but I'm not carrying it. Michael Cera's like, I'm not asking you to.
Yeah.
I don't see what the problem is.
Puts it over his own shoulder. Like, oh, could they have a radio phone so they could call for help? But like, we can't get to you. You're in the middle of the jungle.
Yeah.
We can have a boat come to you if you get to the ocean. So get to the coast, look up your location on your GPS and tell us your location and we'll have a boat come out. So that's their end goal. Get to the coast and radio in their location. That's why they need the laptop bag, because it has the radio phone and the GPS. All right. So they have the clear goal.
Yes.
They've been found by the cult and then captured by the soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Now they're working in the labor camp.
What if the venture capitalist, like we find out at the end, is the ringleader behind that forced labor?
Or like he's outsourcing something to this company that's in a third world country, not realizing it's all forced labor. And that feels like coincidence. But maybe that's why he's going there. Maybe he's not going there to meet with Richard Branson or whoever. He's going there to do a surprise inspection of this company. And so their goal is to make it to where this company is. And when they finally get there, he realizes, oh, the Death Squad labor camp. It's this company. It's the same thing. And then he can free all of the prisoners and...
Right.
Should we have them work in the labor camp for a little bit before they escape?
I mean, I think it would be funny if one of the two is always just adapting to whatever situation they're in. So John Cena's character is like, all right, we're in the jungle now and we're going to the coast. And then they get captured by the cult. He's like, okay, we're living in the cult now. This is also fine. And then they get captured by the soldiers and taken to the labor camp. And he's just living his best life.
Yeah.
They're mining for whatever obscure element that Michael Cera's company is buying.
Yeah. But they don't know that yet. They're just told, see this rock? This is the rock we want.
Right.
Anything else, get rid of it, but keep these, put them in this. What's the thing that you put on a track that you put rocks in?
Trolley?
Is it?
I don't know. Mine cart?
Mine cart, yeah.
What is the name of the cart that miners use in mines?
When they're carting things around, you know?
And also, no one there speaks English hardly. And John
Right.
Cena's character has automatically picked up the local language and is chatting with the other guys.
It's like really close to Portuguese. It's like a dialect of something that he kind of happens to know certain phrases in. And
right. Oh, it's a mix of Portuguese and, some of the language.
Right. There's got to be a scene where they're in their, whatever they're locked in at night, cages or prisons or whatever cells. And Michael Cera is asking John Cena, like, oh, how did you become a pilot? And it's the same thing. He just sort of fell into it.
Yep.
I was a surfer and somebody.
Right. He's just got this whole story about like, oh, I was doing this and then that happened and then went over here and then I became this and did that. And then I met Richard Branson coincidentally. And so I started working for him and
Paid for my pilot's license. And here we are.
Right.
Yeah.
He was on a plane when the pilot had a heart attack. And so he had to land the plane
Right.
just with radio instructions. And that's how he discovered he could be a really good pilot.
Yeah.
It was like, just because he was there, he learned how to fly a plane.
Yeah.
Right.
And maybe that's a thing. That's the lesson of the movie is Michael Cera's character is very rigid and uptight and, stick to the schedule and don't deviate in any way. We have a plan. We don't change it. And John Cena's like, no, go with the flow. Go with the flow. Relax.
So when the plane initially crashes, then does Michael Cera want to stay? Because he doesn't know much about survivalism, but he knows you always stay with the plane.
I think it should be the opposite. John Cena wants to stay at the plane because he's got survival training. You stay
That's
at
what
the
you do.
plane.
Right. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
It's Michael Cera who's radioed for help. And they're like, look, we can't get anyone out there for 3 days.
Yeah.
We have a boat. If you were closer to the coast, you could radio your location. We could pick you up. But you're in the jungle, so it'll take, 7 days or whatever, some larger amount of time than it would take to walk to the coast. And so he's like, okay, let's walk to the coast. So everything is his fault because he wouldn't stay with the plane because he wanted to get to his meeting on time.
Yeah, because we'll recall that later when they have an argument just before the climax.
Oh, yes. Of course. They've got to have
their big falling out.
Yeah.
Yes. Right.
Sorry, you couldn't hear that, but my eyes rolled all the way out of my head.
All right. Well, before we get to that big falling out and the climax, we need to take a break. So let's do that now, and we'll be back with our story about, let's remember, a pencil. All right, we're back. Our story, as we said right before the break, is about a pencil. So where is the first instance of a pencil coming in handy being used?
When they find their directions.
Okay.
Because they need to know which way the coast is before they leave the plane.
How do they use the pencil to do that? Because I thought we determined they weren't magnetic.
He's using the shadow of the pencil.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Works for me. That's enough explanation.
You stick it in the ground, and then you put a stone where the tip of the shadow is, and then you wait some time. That shows you the direction the sun is moving.
And then you can determine which way is west and which way is east.
Yes. And that also tells you which way is north and which way is south.
Yes. Okay, that makes sense.
So that's the thing that John Cena knows and shows him.
Yes. So it's John Cena that uses the pencil first?
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah.
Because we want him to not like the pencils. I mean, that was the original pitch, but
Right.
we've also changed a bunch about it. Maybe he's okay with it.
Or maybe he wants to bring the pencils, and Michael Cera's character is like, no, I don't want wooden pencils. He's got a clicker pencil, and he's like, this is the future. Live in the now, old man.
Right. They're reusable, so they're more economically friendly. They're more ecologically friendly.
Right. They don't waste as much graphite.
Every part is replaceable. It's not a one-time use thing.
Right. But John Cena's character is like, wooden pencils have 1,001 uses.
Right.
So he puts regular wooden pencils in Michael Cera's laptop bag. Like, since you're bringing a bag, carry these as well. So they find the direction and they set off, and then night starts to fall. So they stop and make camp. This is the second time they use pencils. They use the sharpener to shave off some of the wood on a pencil and use that to start a fire.
Or a knife. I mean.
Or, yeah, whatever. So they also use the pencil to make friction on a board to build a fire.
Oh, yeah. That's a good idea.
Yep.
Oh, maybe that's what Michael Cera assumes that John Cena is going to do. But he's like, what? No, I have a flint on the end of my blade. Like,
right.
He's like, I am prepared. I have these all-weather matches in the kit that I brought from the plane, the survival kit. Like,
yes.
The bag of useful supplies, not the laptop.
The fire gives away their position. They're discovered by the cult.
Yes.
And while hanging out at the cult, they get picked up by the soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
So when the cult women find these guys, are they forceful in bringing them back? Are they saying, oh, why are you guys sleeping in the jungle? We have like nice warm huts you could stay in. Or there's a whole civilization just over this hill. Or how do they
entice them?
Or do they like have them at spear point, like, you're coming with us? I mean, we could do that where at first it's like, uh-oh, we've been captured. And then they get there and it's like a tiki bar.
Maybe those are like the soldier women, the police women.
The enforcers, right?
So they're naturally leery of some random dudes out in their jungle. Were they sent by the soldiers?
I mean, one of them looks too soft to have been sent by anyone.
Sure.
But yeah, I like them being captured or appearing to be captured forcefully. And then the reveal that it's this paradise of women.
Just this chill hippie cult full of women.
Yes. And they are down to clown.
Mm-hmm. I will say we could add another use of the pencil just before they get captured would be because pencils are made out of an edible cedar generally. So
You're
they
in
could,
a jungle full of other plant matter.
and half the things are poisonous.
It's what I hear it as half things are not poisonous.
And John Cena would know which ones are not.
Or he would just gamble with whatever.
I was going to say.
He's just going to take the chance 50-50.
Because it has always worked out for him in the past.
Okay.
Right.
Because of survivorship bias. So he thinks things will always work out for him in the future. But they keep working out for him.
Okay.
I mean, I could see Michael Cera gnawing on a pencil and John Cena just eating whatever plants he has found. Michael Cera could be like, this all could be poisonous. And John Cena's like, as he's chewing, seems fine.
Maybe they've like collected a bunch of some kind of fruit and they find out later from the women like, oh, yeah, you have to be careful because there's another one that looks just like it that's really poisonous. And Michael Cera is like, how do you tell the difference? They're like, well, if you eat the poisonous one, you die. And John Cena's like, huh, good thing that didn't happen. Like, it's just water on a duck. You know, he just doesn't even affect him. It doesn't faze him because it didn't happen.
He's still eating one of them.
Right, yeah.
It's like, oh. Or maybe it doesn't kill you, but gives you horrific diarrhea. And that's the one that Michael Cera ate. So they get to the compound, and instead of partaking of the bounty, he's just in the toilet for the first day.
Poop jokes are always funny.
The second night, when it's like he's like being swayed by the women, that's when the soldiers show up. So he never catches a break.
Yeah, so he's all excited, like, oh, I feel a lot better. It was just the one night.
Yeah.
I've never had a stomach bug clear up that fast. They even say that, like, oh, it makes you really sick for 8 hours or something like that. And the next day he's like, it's amazing. 8 hours. I feel great. Okay, and so we know how they get caught. We know they get taken to the mine.
Yep.
So they have one pencil available. Is this where they bite down the ferrule and make a makeshift screwdriver to take the hinges off of the cage door and
it's got to be
escape?
Yeah.
And then they could use the graphite in that same pencil to short something electrical and cause the lights in the camp to go out.
I was trying to think of another way you could use the pencil. I was like, oh, Michael Cera uses it to dig the mortar around a stone block in the wall that he's in. And when he finally gets it loose, he knocks it down and sticks his head through it. And it's like the guard room. But then they would take the pencil away. So like, well, that doesn't work.
That's a good point. I mean, do they need to get the other pencils? 'Cause I feel like if they use the one to short something out, that destroys that pencil. So now they need to get the other pencils.
They need to get the laptop bag, which also has the pencils in it.
Right. That's just like how soon do we want them to have their other pencils back? And then when does Michael Cera's mechanical pencil absolutely fail them? Because we want to see that the wooden pencil was the superior pencil, right?
Maybe it's the mechanical pencil that he uses to dig the mortar out.
Oh, right. Because it's like a special titanium.
Right. It's meant to last a lifetime.
Right. I mean, the other option, I guess, is that his pencil does actually end up being useful in an unexpected way. It hasn't been in all these other situations because only a wooden pencil could be sharpened to get the shavings. Only a wooden pencil you could clamp down the ferrule. Only a wooden pencil you'd be able to use to short out the thing. But in this one situation, the mechanical pencil, like, okay.
Well, if it's something like titanium or a hard metal, it could be used to block a door. keep it from slamming or locking or whatever.
Mm.
But a wooden pencil would have snapped.
Yep.
Yeah. Or that could be the stabbing pencil.
Yep.
It would be good for stabbing.
Okay. I still want him to dig out the stone and get that pencil taken away. Because so that could come back when they meet the soldiers again in the third appearance.
Uh-huh.
One of the soldiers still has that pencil like in his pocket. That's how they get it back. Because it's very useful. It's very useful.
I like that.
Yeah, when they're like trapped by whatever, the third time Michael Cera can spy it and be like, son of a bitch still has my pencil.
Yeah.
Right. That's when he's got his bravery. That's my pencil.
The soldiers take that pencil, put it back in the cell or another cell. And then later when they get the laptop bag, which has wooden pencils in it, it doesn't have his mechanical pencil. And he's really upset. And he wants to like keep looking for it because he's rigid like that. And John Cena's like, we gotta go. We gotta go. This is our escape. Just, you gotta leave that behind. And so when he sees it the third time, he really wants to get it.
How do they figure out that this is the company that they were coming to visit? This is the company that Michael Cera has hired.
When they meet with the investor, is that who it is that this investor runs this company?
Yeah.
And they want that resource? That's got to be the reason.
Yeah.
Maybe that's when he sees the soldier with his pencil in his pocket. It's like, it has to be the same soldier. It's not, I'm not mistaken identity. That's my pencil and he has it. So he has to be with the soldiers that captured us. And those soldiers are with the investor. Like they're also guarding his compound or whatever.
All right. So them taking down the
forced labor.
Yeah, the mining operation.
Yes.
And escaping from that happens partway through. And then they do manage to make it to where the investor is.
Yes.
Okay. I like that. So I'm trying to think about the story structure here. That feels like a big, shocking thing. That feels like it could be the end of the second act. The lowest low is realizing, oh, the investor is...
Right. We thought we made it back to civilization and everything was going to be smooth sailing from here. But it turns out the investor is corrupt and actually is leading the people that had captured us and are forcing people into labor.
How do we get them from the labor camp to the investor? Because their plan originally was to go to the coast.
Right. Well, they have to escape from the mining camp.
Yeah.
Do they make it to the coast and then they drop them off in the city?
They get on the boat and the boat takes them to the investor's compound.
Right.
It's the investor's boat.
Yeah, so they do make it to the coast. Okay, yeah, that's who he calls. Right. Why would you call anybody else?
Right.
You'd call your contact in the place where you are, in the country where you are. So
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So how do they defeat the investor? Or I feel like does something else happen? It's not just a realization that, oh, this guy's a big jerk.
No, because the big jerk is wise to the fact that these two discovered his forced mining camp.
Yeah.
Because the soldiers were chasing after them when they got to the coast. And so they barely get away to the quote unquote safety of the boat, which takes them to the investor's compound. But they're all talking to each other.
Right. So there's like a moment of it being nice where it's like, we're in this guy's beautiful villa in the jungle or on the seaside or whatever. And we're able to take a shower and
you see them in the white robes from the guest rooms and
right. They're eating, he's got this nice spread for them and they're like, oh, this is great. And then they're having a conversation and then there's a moment where it turns and you realize, oh, he's known basically all along.
Right.
It's unfortunate because his company had a lot of promise and he was really looking forward to working with them.
Yeah. I was going to give you a really good price.
Yeah.
But then you died in a plane crash and that was sad.
Right.
Yep.
And then the guards come out and the one guy's got the pencil and they recognize them and they're like, oh no.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So how do they get away from that?
But this could be the stabbing with the pencil scene. Since the guy has the pencil.
What is the climax of the film? Is it defeating the investor?
It's got to be defeating the investor who is set up as the big bad. Although this also ruins Michael Cera's company because they needed that investor. And so
they're going to go live in the jungle with the cult anyway. So
well, the cult's going to invest because they have lots of money.
Now, see, that's coincidence again.
But the best kind, the 80s kind.
Actually, I was a princess the whole time. I do like the idea of the cult rescuing them in their attempted escape from the investor's compound because they've had problems with the soldiers in the past. They have this uneasy truce. but things are not going well. And these two guys got captured by the soldiers at the cult compound.
Right.
So like the uneasy truce is no longer a truce. So we have the cult members potentially as among their rescuers. What about the other people at the mining camp?
Oh, sure, because it's not just the men from the cult.
There are other villages and other places. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did the other workers escape with them with the distraction that they created?
This is what I'm thinking. They caused a big enough distraction that the camp started falling apart and the other workers also made their escape. And now it's time to strike back at that evil investor. So what happens to our two guys at the end?
Michael Cera goes back to civilization and goes on the hunt for a new investor, and John Cena goes back to the cult.
I feel like John Cena just like falls into something.
Just falls into some other job.
Right.
Right. They also get rescued by like the Coast Guard. And one of the people there is like, have you thought about being a soldier?
Or like somehow they end up somewhere and they get picked up by like a scuba tour group. And so now he leads like scuba tours or something. You know, like it's gonna be some weird total left turn of careers, which has been the story of his life, is just jumping from, between these careers that have seemingly no connection to each other.
Right.
So now he's like makes cheese or, like whatever.
Yeah, I think some kind of chef thing.
Strange thing.
So Michael Cera's ending seems a little lackluster to me still.
Right.
Well, he is a little lackluster.
Well, the whole point, the character arc is that he's learning to not be so rigid and to go with the flow. And so if he goes back to what he was doing, which was looking for an investor that has this whatever material.
Does he join John Cena in becoming a dive instructor or cheesemonger? Does he change careers completely and go with the flow with him?
Or he goes back to the cult thinking that was a big opportunity that I missed. And I want to have this idyllic life where all I got to do is sex women all the time. But the men have been released from the mining camp. So he gets back to the cult. And now there's more men than women.
And they don't need him.
They don't need him.
Right. We're not taking new applications at the moment.
Oh, there was like one girl at the compound, the cult compound, that he seemed to have a connection with, although they never got together. And he gets back to the compound and she's like, oh, you made it. I want to introduce you to my husband.
Yeah.
That's still kind of a lackluster ending, though.
Yeah. What could he do? What could we make him do?
He takes over the mining operation. He replaces the evil investor.
But he pays fair wages?
Well, yeah, he makes it into a co-op. Because it's still like a valuable resource.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that would make his rigidity, bring use to his rigidity, but also show that he's learning to be more flexible.
Yeah, and the opportunity is there because the investor was selling that mineral way below market price because he could afford it because he had all these slave labor, the forced labor camp. But you could just sell it at market price and pay your workers.
Oh, sure. So we established earlier that like he wants to be this like wealthy CEO guy. And so he's not going to be wealthy, but he's going to get to live in this beautiful place.
Right.
And have people who respect him and
use his skills.
Right. Yeah. But he still gets to use the skills that he's, got that degree for or whatever, his MBA.
Business management. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that works. Is there anything else we need to figure out before we wrap it up? I feel like the third act is quite weak. We don't really know how they get away from the investor. Like, we really don't have much of a third act. It's just sort of like, they defeat the investor.
I mean, that's a problem for the writers.
Action sequence.
Sequence. Yeah. Insert action sequence here. So, like, there has to be a door, as Emily was talking about earlier, that closes, that they can prop open with the titanium mechanical pencil to shimmy through or whatever.
Right.
So that's in there. There's not much that two people can do against an army at the evil investor's compound, but they don't have to do everything. They just have to start the fight because everyone that they helped up to this point, this is where everyone comes together.
Yes.
So there's a big fight between multiple forces and they get rescued basically. So they don't fight their way out. They're not the heroes.
Right.
Although they did initiate the rebellion.
how do all of the different villagers and cult people and stuff, how do they know to come and help fight?
I think the villagers not the villagers, the released laborers.
Yeah.
Maybe follow their tracks or follow where the soldiers are going.
I think that they know where the evil investor's compound is. It's a compound. It doesn't move around.
This is true. Do they just, because we're saying some of those guys are from the cult village, so do they return to the cult village first, kind of explain what happened, and then
They all go to their home villages, so it's not just the cult compound. It's the cult compound and also all the villages in the area.
So now that the forced laborers are released, they go back and say, okay, now let's use our resources to go up against this guy.
Right. He's got to go down.
It's not so much coincidence, but it's just, this is the time, this is the signal. Let's do it.
Right. Because they just got released. And now maybe they weren't sure, maybe the villages weren't sure that these people were still alive in the forced labor camp. But it's like, if we don't stand up now, they'll take back the power that they had.
And this will all just happen again.
Right. So it's now or never.
Right.
So they all converge on the compound.
Right. So it is a coincidence that John Cena and Michael Cera are there at the time because they were not the goal.
Right.
But it's not a coincidence that it's happening at that time.
Right. Because it happened because they
got to be freed.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Anything else?
Are we setting up a sequel or is this a one and done? Because if it's a one and done, then you do the, freeze frame and then text epilogue. What happens to this character? Yeah. Like the list of things that John Cena does.
Several other jobs. Yeah. He went on to do this and then this and then this. He currently is a, cheesemonger in Wisconsin for now.
Yes. Yeah.
I like that just for that bit.
Yeah.
Well, we'd love to hear your thoughts on today's episode about a pencil. Did it put lead in your pencil? Or was it pencil necked? Let us know by leaving a comment on our website, reaching out on social media, or sending us an email. Links to all of those can be found at almostplausible.com. If you aren't sure what to say to us, you could always send us an idea for an episode. There are plenty of interesting objects out there, and we'd love to record a show about one that you suggest. This podcast is released every other Tuesday, so be sure to pencil it in so you can join Emily Shep and I on the next episode of Almost Plausible.